Vietnam has opened up its borders. It's a country of beautiful landscapes, amicable people, and a great cultural heritage. The realm of Nam Viet was founded by a Chinese general in the 2nd century BC. Today's Vietnam originates from those ancient times. Hanoi, North Vietnam's lively capital city, located in the north of the country and set amid the delta plains of the Red River. A large number of the city's inhabitants meet around a large lake for their early morning exercises. And the gods are also worshipped here. The Van Mieu Temple was once Vietnam's first university. It is highly revered. The Dua Mo Co Pagoda is one of the oldest religious buildings in Hanoi. A temple built upon a single column in the center of a small lake. Jo Dong Xuan is the name of a large market. It contains a huge variety of goods, and it's also where the local people do their adventurous shopping. Den Dao Quan, one of the most beautiful Taoist temples in Vietnam, is located close to the National Library, southeast of the Temple of Literature. Dua Dran Qua is probably the city's oldest temple. It was once located on the banks of the Red River, but was relocated to this site in the 17th century. Inaugurated in 1993, the Thang Long Water Puppet Theatre is one of the finest examples of its kind in Vietnam and is so popular that its twice-daily performances are a complete sellout. Pogo Hanoi, the old district that is also known as the Town of 36 Crafts, with various rectangular sections separated by walls. A red wooden bridge leads to a small island in the middle of the lake. Here, in the shade of a tree, is the Nok Son Temple. The Long Bien Bridge near the old town spans 1,700 meters across the Red River. On the site of what was once the city's largest Buddhist pagoda, Catholic missionaries from France built a cathedral. The majestic Hanoi Cathedral looks rather exotic compared to the other buildings. Den Quan Tan, the richly adorned Temple of the Great God, dates back to the 11th century and is dedicated to the Vietnamese god of war. Lake West is the largest lake in Hanoi. Hanoi is old but beautiful, the pearl of North Vietnam. In the Gulf of Tonkin, there is a large bay with more than 1,600 islands, the Bay of Ha Long. However, in recent years, both fishing and tourism have indicated the importance of conservation. These bizarrely formed rocks fired the imagination of those who lived here in ancient times. Several of the islands have colorful names. The delightful and natural beauty of Ha Long Bay is popular with one and all. Nature's many moods are an intriguing sight. A place of total beauty and one of the world's great natural wonders. On the shores of the Perfume River, the Song Hoang Giang in the heart of Vietnam is a former royal city and today's provincial capital of Hue. 9 mighty cannon are the symbolic guards of this historic citadel. Beyond this defensive structure are 500 hectares that contain the imperial city and also the forbidden Purple City, a city within a city. The rise of Hue into a magnificent residence is closely associated with the Nguyen royal family, who influenced the city for many centuries. A short boat trip on Perfume River leads to another of the city's attractions. Located on a hill, legend has it that the Tien Mu Pagoda, built in 1601, owes its existence to the appearance of a god disguised as an old woman. The story goes that the woman made a prophecy that a new king would come and build an important pagoda for the gods. In the south of the former capital of Hue are the spacious tombs of the Nguyen emperors who reigned in the 19th and 20th centuries. Three years in construction, the tomb of Tu Tak was completed during the lifetime of the emperor in 1867. Unlike the citadel, most of the emperor's tombs were spared from major damage, and so many of the original buildings have survived to the present day. With no effort or expense spared, Emperor Kai Din ordered the construction of his tomb long before his death. Next we reach the Marble Mountains. Many a temple and palace derived its marble from this area. Animals, tiny fountains and images of gods are also created from this beautiful stone. Here on overgrown rocks, the precious marble is used as a building material, such as for the pagodas that are located on the hills beyond the village of Quang Nam. Several steps and pathways have led to various caves, pagodas and vantage points since the reign of Emperor Minh Mang. Since that time, this complex has been a popular attraction. It was originally an island surrounded by the sea. The tiny, dreamy harbour of Hoi An. Today it's difficult to believe that 300 years ago, this was one of the most important seaports in Vietnam. Life continued here as normal until, in the early 1990s, the tourist industry began to develop in Vietnam. Whether on the riverbanks of the Tu Bon, the narrow streets or the fascinating shops, Hoi An has retained the colourful atmosphere of bygone times. Many of the city's meeting halls, temples and homes are of typical Chinese design. Both the Quan'an Temple and the Quangkong Temple date back to the 17th century. The Quantung building is one of the city's oldest civic properties. Both architecturally and culturally, Hoi An has been influenced by two nations, Japan and China. And even today, Chinese influence is omnipresent. 5 Chinese tribes once dominated the daily life and trade of this prosperous harbour city. Da Nang's Cham Museum boasts a fine collection of Cham sculpture from the surrounding provinces. It contains more than 300 exhibits divided into 10 rooms, with sandstone deities, monsters and heavenly dances. As the city is situated on the River Han, both fishing and the city's fish market are extremely important. The new market hall has a wonderful array of fresh seafood. This crowded though colourful market has the finest selection of goods in the city, and it's well worth a visit. It's also a good place to take a photo. Agriculture is still Vietnam's most important source of income. The fields are often small, but they cover a total of 20% of the country's land surface. Finally, we arrive in Nha Trang, one of the country's most important fishing harbours, and also one of the most attractive bathing resorts on the South China Sea. The view of a large bridge at the mouth of the river leads up to a flat hilltop that is crowned by 2 Cham towers that date back to the 12th century. This sanctuary is dedicated to the main goddess of Cham, Po Naga. Legend has it that this goddess once taught agriculture to the local inhabitants. Above the entrances of both towers are stone images of Apsaras dancers, Shiva and Nataraja. On the other side of the river, the monastery complex of Lan Son extends across the entire side of a hill, a place of contemplation. On the hill is a 14-metre-high snow-white Buddha statue that was built in 1963 as a memorial for the monks and nuns who became martyrs due to their protests against the Diem regime. In the exclusive mountain resort of Da Lat, the last emperor of Vietnam, Bao Dai, had a summer palace built within a cool pine forest. All those who enjoyed high office in colonial Vietnam spent their summer months here. Thus, Da Lat has survived intact. Following independence, tourism boomed, and the city, along with its lake and charming surroundings, became a paradise for the newly united people of Vietnam. Close to Da Lat is a Buddhist temple complex that has recently become extremely popular with the faithful, the Tuyen Lam Pagoda. Buddhism has its roots in Siddhartha Gautama, the son of a North Indian prince who sought total understanding and eventually found his enlightenment in Buddha. On the basis that nothing in the world can last forever, Buddha developed four noble truths that can only be attained by man by way of several incarnations. Buddhism came to Vietnam in the early centuries of Christianity. The fertile highland around Bao Loc is the center of both tea and coffee plantations. Endless fields line each side of the road. The local mountain tribes work in these huge and profitable plantations that today are mainly in private ownership. Cool nights and intense sunlight helps to produce one of the best and most expensive teas in the world, with a very special aroma. The women of the Ma minority tribe pick tea leaves and collect them in large baskets that are secured by a headband. In addition, more than 10,000 hectares contain mulberry trees for the largest silkworm farm in Vietnam. But this region is also known for its impressive waterfalls that are at their most spectacular following the monsoons. Due to an astute businessman, this natural spectacle can be observed from the safety of a cable car. A fascinating sight. At the delta, the first floating villages at the roadside. Some of the local people live in these flat cabined boats. Several boats make up a small community to satisfy man's need to feel safe and secure. Small boats are powered by the legs. In contrast to the simple way of life here, modern technology such as television is also part of everyday life. A short journey towards the Cambodian border leads us to a temple of the Cao Dai sect in Tay Ninh, a confusing combination of Eastern and Western design. The omniscient eye that is worshipped as the most revered being decorates the large portal of the long main temple that is located in the center of the complex. The mélange of architecture is a symbol of the sect's philosophy that unites elements of Buddhism, Confucianism and Taoism, as well as Christianity. A colourful mixture of painted images range from Buddha to Jesus, and snakes and dragons decorate the temple's spacious interior. At the end of the hall, the high priest's altar is overshadowed by a gigantic ball. At the beginning of the 20th century, the decline of various ancient religions left a vacuum. So, in the south of the country, sects such as the Taoismas were formed. At noon each day, an orchestra that plays traditional instruments accompanies a religious ceremony that can also be observed by visitors from a side balcony. And next, a once small trading center that is situated on the large river from which it derived its name, Saigon. It was here that it all began, at the junction of the Ben Nhi Canal on the slowly flowing Saigon River. The city's largest church is located in the center of the administration district, Notre Dame Cathedral. It was consecrated as the Church of Holy Mary in 1883. The Ben Thanh Market is Saigon's largest market. It was built in 1919 and is covered by a huge dome. The clock tower is one of the city's main landmarks. There's also fresh meat and poultry and fish. In addition to Buddhist temples and Catholic churches, Saigon contains various other sacred buildings, such as the impressive Mariamman Hindu Temple. The Van Hoa Park adjoins the area that contains the former presidential palace. It's popular with the local people, an oasis of relaxation. The name Jolon means big market, a lively commercial district with many family businesses conducted in crowded shops and narrow lanes. The wealthiest temple in the heart of Jolon is dedicated to the patron saint of seafarers, the Tien Hao Pagoda, built by the Canton Chinese in the 19th century. The history of the Gyaklam Pagoda can be traced back to 1744. It is not only one of the oldest, but one of the most beautiful. Traditional ceremonies are extremely popular in Vietnam, such as the wedding ceremonies that are alive with both music and dance. The serene ritual dances of the royal court are performed by women. It is said that music and dance reflect the character of the population. Thus, the Vietnamese are a very charming and fascinating people. My Tho is one of the towns in the delta with a special charm. The river is the main source of income of its inhabitants. Cuu Long, the Nine Dragons River, as the Mekong is also known, does indeed divide into 9 wide rivers at its estuary. The country's increasing industrialization also began to transform and endanger the environment, as man penetrated deeper and deeper into the wilderness. The extensive delta of the great Mekong River of South Vietnam is undoubtedly one of the most remarkable natural habitats in the whole of Southeast Asia. A journey downriver leads us to a special attraction, the small town of Pung Hiep, where hundreds of boats gather each day. Here, a floating market takes place each morning. At the junction of 7 waterways, farmers, tradesmen and their customers rendezvous on the water. The colourful hustle and bustle can lead to some pretty chaotic situations, but the boatmen usually manage to somehow extract their boats from the traffic jams that accumulate. In addition to farm products and general goods, there are also floating restaurants that provide an extensive range of fresh and tasty food. Shopping creates a healthy appetite. For visitors, it's a rather exotic spectacle, but it's always been an integral part of life in Phung Hiep. Can Tho is the fourth largest city in South Vietnam. It's situated on the right-hand side of the river Bassac, that is almost 2 kilometers wide at this point. Life here is determined by the river. 110 kilometers down the river is the South China Sea. Vietnam was once called the Pearl of the Orient. From the nostalgic atmosphere of the Red River Delta in the north to the pulsating life of the Mekong Delta in the south.